We ready, Cass?
We ready,
Ready, Dave?
David? Come on, David, let's go.
This wasn't the job description. Thank you. Good evening. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, Section 1. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, man, with the roll call. Hey, another, okay.
You're about to lose it.
You're losing your job.
You're about to lose it.
You can go home, Steve. Steve's yeah.
There is a guy. Thank you.
He's been wanting to run the meeting all night long.
This should be like a fine.
Let the record reflect the chair arrived at 7:35.
What am I up to
I
here?
should get at least $5.
Roll call.
Give you 7.
Roll call?
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Julian, Dr. Maroli, Mr. Kennard,
Here.
Mr. Merdinger,
Here.
Mr. Lapani,
Here.
Mr. Peason,
Here.
Vice Chair Cohn,
Here.
Committee Man Delcor, Deputy Mayor Burchett,
Here.
Chairman Dr. Reed.
Now here. Disposition of minutes, June 11th.
Mr. Chairman, all members present are eligible except for you.
So moved. Second.
Second by
Any
Mr. Wagner.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Kennard,
Yes.
Mr. Merdinger,
Yeah.
Mr. Lapani,
Yes.
Mr. Peason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cohn,
Yes.
Committee Man Delcor, Deputy
Yes.
Mayor Burchett.
Next up, minutes of June 25th.
I'll move.
Second. Members who
Oh, I
may
can't.
vote on it are the chair, Mr. Wagner, and Mr. Peason.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Peason,
Yes.
Chairman Dr. Sweetney,
Yes. Next meeting, July 9th.
Eligible members are all present except for Mr. Lapani.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Merdinger,
Yes.
Mr. Kennard,
Yes.
Mr. Peason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cohn,
Yes.
Committee Man Delcor, Deputy Mayor Burchett.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone?
Nope.
Chair.
Oh, me.
Dr. Sweetney.
Yes.
I could vote on that one.
All right, and finally, the minutes of July 23rd.
Mr. Chairman, all members present except for Mr. Connard and Mr. Cohen are eligible to vote on this.
So
Okay.
moved. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
All members present except for who?
Mr. Cohen and Mr. Connard.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Merdinger,
Yes.
Mr. Peason,
Yes.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burchett,
Yes.
Chairman Dr. Sweetney.
Yes. Okay, next up is
Mr.
planning.
Chairman,
Yeah.
I apologize. It's my understanding, I've been advised by the planning director that we do not have a secretary this evening. We have some plans that need to be signed after the meeting, so the board needs to designate an acting secretary for the evening since Dr. Maroli is not here. The eligible members for such are Mr. Wagner, Mr. Connard, Mr. Cohen, yourself, Mr. Peason, and Mr. Lapani.
Anybody volunteer?
Nobody rushed to this.
I had a camera on you.
Mr. Peason has been nominated. Is anyone else nominated?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of Mr. Peason, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Peason is outvoted, so he is secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
It's a great idea. Step it up.
Very good. So, planning board business is 2 extensions. The first is for Glenn Gary, file 15 PB04MR,
We didn't look at your sheet.
asking for an extension through December the 31st.
So moved.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Merdinger,
Yes.
Mr. Beeson,
Yes.
Mr. LaPlante,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cohen,
Yes.
Committee Man Delcourt, Deputy Mayor Burchett,
Yes.
Chair Dr. Cerisi.
Yes. The next one is for Prismic Associates, 14 PB 21 MSR. Here, the extension is being requested through January 7th, 2016.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Merdinger,
Yes.
Mr. LaPlante, Mr. Beeson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cohen,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burchett,
Yes.
Chairman Dr.
Yes. Any business from the floor for items not on the agenda? The Richmond Properties hearing is on the agenda. So you can wait for the hearing. Okay, seeing none, we move on to the public hearing. Richmond Properties LLC, 15 PB07 MJV, Block 182, Lots 2 and 2.01, Sunnymead Road and Falcon Road. Applicant seeking preliminary and final major subdivision approval with C-bulk variance for relief from setbacks to subdivide a little over 14 acres into 5 single-family dwelling lots, one of which will contain the existing dwelling and accessory structure, a shed, on property in the RA Residential Agricultural Zoning District and within the airport hazard area. Counsel?
Chairman, members of the board, Dominic Sermonaro appearing for Richmond Properties. We were at a point where Mr. Ford...
Sir, hold that.
Oh, you saw...
Yeah, hold that up close, yep.
Where Mr. Ford was testifying, there were questions from the board, and the board was gracious enough to allow us an adjournment to fulfill those requests. Mr. Agavino did supplement his report. I believe every member of the board should have a copy of that supplemented report. Mr. Ford also supplemented his documents, and I assume that everybody on the board has that. I would ask that we could continue with Mr. Ford's testimony. He was under oath at the time, and I would ask that he would continue to be under oath at this time.
Okay, call the witness.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Ford testifies, just for the record, Mr. Lapani has signed, he has reviewed the necessary documents and can participate in tonight's hearing.
Okay. You may proceed.
Hello. Maybe we can mark the exhibit that we put up. I don't think that was marked at the last meeting. That would be A1. It's a colorized version of the plans that were submitted as part of the application. Okay. Just I guess a summary and recap of what the application is proposing. It's at the intersection of Falcon Road and Sunnymead Road. It's in the RA zone, which is a 2-acre minimum. However, it does have public water and sewer. The 2 existing lots will be consolidated and reconfigured into 5 new proposed lots. And existing public water along Sunnymead Road will be utilized. And there is an existing sewer trunk line along the westerly side of the Royce Brook, which is at the rear of the property. And the applicant has proposed to extend from that trunk line a sewer line up into and servicing the 5 proposed lots. The Royce's Brook is at the rear of the property. There's a substantial wooded area that is basically at the rear of 3 of the proposed lots. That'll be placed within a conservation easement, which will include all the wetlands, wetland buffers, and the only intrusion into that area would be for the proposed public sewer extension. That extension would include the expense of boring under the Royce's Brook. An application has been made and approved by the Hillsborough Municipal Utilities Authority back in May. We have forwarded that application on to the Somerset Raritan Valley Sewage Authority for their review and approval, and that's pending. And we have also made application to NJDEP for the wetland disturbances associated with that sanitary sewer extension, as well as the disturbance within the floodplain as part of that utility crossing. And that's the only areas regulated by DEP that will be disturbed by the application. With regards to stormwater runoff and management, there's no new road. There's Falcon Road along the northerly portion of the tract, which will remain unchanged, and then Sunnymead along the easterly portion of the tract. So there's no new road. The impervious coverage that's proposed as part of the application is limited to the on-site dwellings and driveways. The driveways would be constructed of porous pavement. The dwellings would discharge the on-site dry wells. That's part of the application. There was a stormwater management report provided as part of the application. And I'll say that in addition to the review by your engineer, that's also reviewed by DEP as part of the utility crossing even. The application to DEP for just that sanitary sewer utility crossing triggered a review of the stormwater management and an application fee of $12,000. There's landscaping proposed as part of the application. That landscaping is to address the tree mitigation ordinance, albeit there's very limited amount of trees that will be disturbed as part of the application because the front portion of the property where the houses are to be located was basically a mowed meadow area with a couple of tree rows where the tree rows are actually part of the layout of the subdivision where we provided property lines along the existing tree rows so that we can try to take advantage of those tree rows and preserve them and provide that natural immediate buffer between properties. But there's also additional plantings proposed to help mitigate for stormwater runoff by changing land surfaces from grass to return it to a wooded area. At the opening of the application, there was a discussion or statement about the property being within the airport hazard zone. That's per the Township's broad mapping. However, since the application was initially submitted and this came out of review comments we've received from Mr. White's review as well as the county, we did additional surveying of the property and with GPS tied the boundary survey not into just the deed system but actually the overall New Jersey State Polluting Coordinate System. And then with that data, we did additional off-site surveying, and I'm highlighting on the key map now, of the airport, and have determined that in actuality, based on those detailed surveying measurements and calculations, that the airport hazard zone doesn't actually encroach on the property. Back in June, we provided the board with that exhibit of the studied airport hazard zone, as well as the revised final plat for the subdivision, illustrating how the airport hazard zone doesn't impact the project. And what that does is that this most southerly lot, we had proposed the house more toward the rear of the property, out of the airport hazard zone, but now that house can be located up in line with the other proposed dwellings along Sunnymead Road, perhaps which would be considered a more natural location for that house.
Chairman,
Yes.
we still haven't justified a 5-lot subdivision yet. And we're going into the details of a 5-lot subdivision, but I'd like to try and go through the changes that were made and submitted. And so if the 5-lot subdivision is justified as a basis of design, then I think we can get into all the details.
Okay.
You submitted modifications to the EIS and another map. Was the EIS wrong, that you had to go and get the modifications done?
I think there were clarifications and expansions of the EIS. For example, at the last,
Don't forget you're under oath.
Mr.
Oh, I
Chairman,
understand
one
that.
second. Mr. Chairman, I would like the opportunity, if a question is asked, for the witness to answer it. That's all we would ask.
Thank you, noted for the record, but the board members are representing the public here, and they have a right to represent the public with passion, if they wish.
And I have no objection to that
Right.
ever. I just, so that we could at least
Yeah.
get an answer.
We will,
Mr. Agavino's here.
No,
Mr. Agavino's
one
here, the
second.
author of it. He can
What-
answer detailed questions about his document.
Okay.
When you ask whether the EIS was inaccurate or not, I would defer that to Mr. Agavino, Mr. Merdinger, the author of the document.
Okay. The fact that he had, well, we'll wait for him to come, unless you want to have him now. All I want to show is that it wasn't for want of, just asking questions. It had 3.9745 steep slopes, whereas your corrections show 0.0137 steep slopes. That's an error.
Yeah, I understand Mr. Agavino's clarified and made all those corrections.
Yes.
He wasn't at the last meeting,
I
but
know he wasn't.
he watched the tape of the meeting, so he understood, I believe,
The
what the
key-
comments were. And
But
I think all the documents we provided were to address that. And if there's something that still hasn't been addressed satisfactorily, please.
I do
let's-
think, though, that the changing of a number from one number to a significantly different number constitutes the correction of an error, and I do find it distressing that you won't say that.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Agavino, it's his
I
document.
think it speaks for itself.
Yes.
But, okay.
What I'm trying to show is
Yeah.
that that wasn't in, as a comment that was unjustified. There was a significant error, and I didn't know if your data was right, and you didn't give the details. Now, I just wanted to get that corrected. We don't, it's there.
Okay,
But you have to go and justify each lot that it meets the 2 acres.
yeah,
And, 1 second, I didn't ask a question yet. Right?
Yes, that's very true.
Okay. And in that justification, you have to leave out the deduction of the critical areas and the right-of-way. You have not shown that yet, and I'd like you to walk through each one of the lots to justify that you meet the 2 acres, so we know you can get 5 lots out of this subdivision. But there is right-of-way in there, too, and what was it, 2.007 acres? You're cutting it very close, as I originally said the other month. So if you can walk us through the lots and the critical areas for each one, and you have the nice big map. The smaller map is a little harder to read, but it works.
right, okay. We provided that calculation actually it's on the June 2nd, 2015 final plat. It's actually embedded right within the zoning data table, the RA zoning requirements, and we've calculated and done the bulk standards for the requirements of the ordinance, the existing conditions of the 2 lots that are being subdivided, as well as all 5 of the proposed lots. And then that calculation includes a table entitled Critical Area Calculation, where we take the 3.97 acres of critical area and say just what portion of that is on each lot, and provide a final net lot area, which is the gross lot area minus that critical area deduction.
But I did not see the right-of-way deducted from any of your maps, including the new one that was revised 8/10/15.
We started with the right-of-way deducted. That's already out. That's
Can you
that's
show
why
me where it says that in the map? Because it doesn't.
yeah, it's,
Well, okay.
Right on-
Testified under oath, but now we should show it.
well, right under the allowable density calculation, footnote 1 says the area excludes the right-of-way dedication.
But you don't give the numbers on that.
The right-of-way dedication is right on the final plat, 33-foot right-of-way dedication of .468 acres. And that's right on the plan itself.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it was hard, and what I'm trying to say to you is that to justify the 2 acres for each one, I had to go fishing and then compare it to the EIS, and we had differential numbers on both, and the right-of-way wasn't taken into account on the EIS, but it's a footnote, which is pretty darn hard to read on this.
I agree, those plans are hard to read, yeah.
So you've taken into account and the 2.0078 and the 2.1065 and the 2.002 just
Correct.
meet. Now, you have a lot of overlaps on your critical areas. So you have, your wetlands has overlapped the stream corridor and everything else. So what you're testifying now is everyone meets with the right-of-way out, the 2 acres.
Correct.
Okay, we're good then.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought maybe I could go to the reports and talk about the couple of items in the reports. Basically, we have 2 review reports. Mr. White's July 9th, 2015 report, which was issued after we submitted that final plat that was amended. It included all the numbers we talked about, as well as the airport hazard zone change. There's 5 pages. There's only, rather than going through each item by item, we have no objection to any of the comments in Mr. White's report. We'll agree to each and every one of those to satisfy them as any condition of approval this board may grant to his satisfaction. Really, there were only, I think, 2 comments that we wanted to discuss with the board, and that is there's an ordinance requirement that we provide sidewalks along the frontage of all streets. We're not proposing or showing any sidewalks along Falcon or Sunnymead, and there are no sidewalks along Falcon Road or Sunnymead Road on the adjoining lands here. It was suggested that perhaps the board would consider, in lieu of providing sidewalk along the frontage, that a contribution could be made to the township in the amount of those sidewalks.
Yes, we have a sidewalk fund for that, so.
Right.
Is that amenable to everyone? Yes, it is.
And the applicant would agree to that. What the applicant, though, has also suggested, and this is subsequent to our last meeting and some discussions with some of the neighborhood residents, is that perhaps instead of putting the sidewalk monies in the ground via sidewalk along the frontage or into a bank for sidewalks is to take the sewer line that the HTMUA has approved at the rear of these properties and extend it up to Sunnymead Road here and to Falcon Road so that it's more readily accessible. We're providing for right-of-ways for that and easements for the sewer line, but it's not required for these to service these 5 lots. In fact, actually, the ground slopes from Sunnymead toward the rear of the property, so all the sewer connections are connected via the sewer line that runs along the back of these properties in an easement. And there is a proposed easement out the Sunnymead Road, but not a proposal or a requirement by the HTMUA to construct that sewer line. What the applicant would like to propose for the board's consideration is that he would actually take on the expense of constructing that sewer line instead of constructing the sidewalks.
Okay, so instead of constructing the sidewalks or contributing to the sidewalk fund, you would instead redirect those funds towards this sewer line extension?
Correct. And that would be done via design, subject to Mr. White's review and approval as far as the design itself, as well as the equity of the monies.
That's more than reasonable. We've done it on a lot of other applications, especially in areas that, that are on septic, and we know what the critical life of a septic system in Brunswick Shale is. And neighbors are here that really want to see that, and I think it'd be a great idea.
So I'm just not familiar with the process. So SVRA has approved the 5 lots. So now if we push this through to accessibility to neighbors, will SVRA allow them to hook into that?
It's MUA has approved it, SRVA hasn't yet.
Right.
I sit on both boards.
Okay, so am I
That's
talking
not
to
a
you or am I
conference.
talking to him?
I don't think that, we're not actually physically making the connection.
Yeah.
So right now, for example, the line that we put in is an 8-inch line. That's adequate capacity for well beyond the 5 lots that we're putting in. So the pipe already itself has adequate capacity to be extended in the future, and that's what was envisioned because of the proposal to dedicate the right-of-ways. All we're saying now is we'd physically put it in out the Sunnymead Road, but we're not making connections to other people yet. I think the trigger of, like for example, the connection fee would be at the time of when it was extended actually to the house and connected. So I don't think that the HTMUA or the SRVSA or the state would have a problem.
No.
And while we've been past the HTMUA, we'll go back to them with the plan and we'll amend our application to the SRVSA just as a technical change in the length of the pipe, if you will.
I just wasn't familiar with the
Yeah,
entire
all they
process.
do is leave a bunch of Ts where your
Right.
hookups would be, and it's up to the individual homeowners in the area if they want to hook up. And then go beyond their properties, it would be an extension. Euclid Avenue did it, a bunch of areas have done it in
I
town.
was under the impression that it's a volume issue when you go originally in front of SVRA and MUA. So if we extend it and push it around the corner, that's going to mean that we're eventually you'd be putting more volume in. So I was wondering how.
Yeah, they
how handle that.
they sized the line at
Okay.
the MUA, so it'd be a collector all the time, because there's plenty of lots all over the town that need it.
Yeah, our application would still be to service 5 lots. Just the physical improvements would be such that it would have the capacity to service more and even more readily accessible to those people.
Very good.
So any future sewer project for the adjacent area would, A, not have to build that connection, and B, would already have a connection in place that would be large enough to serve the purpose. So it, that much easier to do the next project.
It
and
facilitates everything.
facilitates the next project, but it doesn't automatically approve the next project. Next project still has to be proposed and approved.
Correct.
Looks like a good deal.
There
Okay.
was one other item, and I
Yes.
believe this came up in the planner's report, Marsh's, and that was, we would agree to all the comments, but one we'd like the board to consider, and that was a request. We're providing for a conservation easement around this rear wooded area where all the critical areas are. there was, and we're just leaving it alone, but for providing for some signs along the limit of it, to notify homeowners that this is like those typical signs you require on most projects.
Right.
And there'll also be a deed restriction filed, so anybody that purchased the lot will be notified that this is a conservation area. But the suggestion was to fence it in. The applicant would prefer not to provide a fence. We don't feel a fence would be appropriate. It would distract from the natural environment we're trying to preserve, and it would be an added expense. And the fence, where would it stop? Would it go along the side property lines as well? So we would like the board to, as part of any approval it may grant, not require the fence around the conservation easement. We are providing for the signs. And I understand the purpose because, and we've discussed this with your staff, and there's situations where people have open space or conservation easements next to their property, and they migrate out into those areas. But perhaps that might be more common in cluster developments where you have small-sized lots and open space behind those lots, a half-acre lot with a substantial area of open space behind it. You want to take advantage of that open space, if you will. But in the case like this, where we have 2-acre minimum lots, non-critical, beyond that conservation easement, we feel that that would be less likely. Not saying people won't do what they might do, but
No fence.
Good. Okay, we're okay with that. I got the nods. That's fine. We don't typically, when we do conservation easement.
No fence at all.
Now, he really
We
wants
don't want
an
anything
8-foot
collecting hay and
pure
tires.
white fence. That's what he wants, electrified.
Mr. Ford,
we would have, okay.
Yeah.
you discussed on that, we'll call it the lowest lot, that you'd propose to move that house to the front.
Correct.
Would you change the boundary to more of a straight boundary, or keep it as a lot that's the way it is now?
We'd keep the configuration the way it is now. Yeah.
So it's not.
Right. Perhaps now I'd like to, just as a technical proposal, discuss the two variances. There's one existing house on the two lots today. This is the corner lot at the intersection of Sunnymead and Falcon Road. There's an existing brick house. The applicant is already in the process of renovating and I'll say fixing that house. The house would remain in its current location. It would require a front yard setback variance. That's an existing condition, but because of the application for major subdivision approval, we need to request that variance. So that's one technical variance. There's also an existing detached structure, I'll say garage. It may be labeled as a shed. There's no existing nonconformities with that structure today, but when we provide for a property line near it, the ordinance requires that the shed or accessory structure be set back from the property line 1.5 times the height of the structure. We're only about 1 times the height of the structure from the side yard setback. So that's another variance we're requesting. And as part of that variance, and was suggested by the staff, we'd be providing some landscaping in that area to buffer that shed from our neighbors. And when I say shed, it's a pretty substantial structure. Although it's aged, it's a cinder block structure that the applicant intends to, again, renovate, fix up, and use as a garage for that existing dwelling to remain. So there's those two variances that we're requesting. And the benefits, I think, far outweigh the detriment because they're existing structures today. We'd like to preserve them, and the only way we would remedy them, and if the board chose not to grant them, what we do is take down the building and take down the shed and start with a new structure on the corner. But we prefer not to do that. We'd like to keep the corner the way it looks today.
Okay.
I think that's... Any questions for the witness? No? Have we opened the public hearing on this yet?
I don't know if we have, but even if we have, we should do it again.
Motion to open public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any questions for this witness? Yes. That's on, yeah. That's not unusual. It's.
Like I said,
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. Okay. On your survey, is the conservation easement, that's the dark green square on the left that sticks out?
Correct.
Okay, who would own that, actually? Is that going to be owned by the township, the homeowners? How does that work?
It's on the homeowners would own the property, and it would be deed restriction.
Okay. The acreage of that conservation easement, is that the 3.97 acres critical? Is that the same thing? The easement is the same as the critical?
we went a little larger with the conservation easement. It's over 4 acres.
Okay, so that would only be owned by the 2 middle lots then?
Correct. No, there's a portion of the third lot that's in that, has a conservation easement on it as well.
Okay. And you had some discussion of an EIS. Could you just state what EIS stands for? Thank you.
Environmental impact statement.
You didn't know what that was, Susan?
EIEIO.
That's a fine.
Any other questions for this witness? Okay, Counselor, you can bring up your next witness.
I have no further witnesses. That's the applicant's case.
Can you say that in the microphone, please?
No further witnesses. That would be the applicant's case.
Did you want to talk to the person who did the EIS?
Well, yeah, might as well.
Okay.
My apologies. I thought that we had passed that. That's why.
We actually passed the calculations, but his corrections are a little bit, what would you call it? Non-professional. So I figured we can train him to do the EIS according to Hillsborough's ordinance.
There's no Yankees or Mets on, so what are we going to do for the
But the Giants.
Yeah, well.
That's why we don't want to go.
All right. If that's,
don't wanna watch
if
them
Mr.
lose.
Merdinger, you want to talk to this
Yeah.
witness, then we'll ask the council to call the witness up.
Can we do that sidebar instead of having to put the rest of the public through this?
No, because it has to be part of the record.
Call Mr. Agavino.
You're still on, no, you have, you're right. Swear the witness in. Does the witness tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Could you state your full name?
Vincent Agavino, Agovino. Want me to go through my I've been
I
before
just had
this
to
board in the
Accept
past.
Mr. Agavino's qualifications.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Let me just say from the very beginning, Mr. Merdinger, I will accept responsibility for that mistake in section 11.7, and I offer my apologies to you and the board. There was a mistake. It was corrected in a supplement, and hey, have to admit it. When you make a mistake, you admit it.
Yeah, well, we all make mistakes.
Okay.
But the other thing I wanted to note to you is instead of going and getting the calculation of how much it costs a student, you had the veracity to say, based upon a representation by one board member at the July 9th, 2015 Planning Board meeting, current per pupil cost in Hillsborough is approximately $13,000. And all you had to do was get the real data from the school board, and you could have put a real number in there instead of the one that we call a thumbsuck in South Africa, that I just put on the table. And you know, you're a PhD, that you have to give real data instead of somebody saying something at a board. So I consider that a little bit non-professional, but you did a good job otherwise. But I just figured when you make the correction, don't let your emotions go into it.
Sorry. No, my corrections actually were, I sat and listened and watched the video, and I was trying to address your concerns.
Yeah.
Point by point. That was really what it was. It was not to,
But you took the $13,000 as verbal from a layperson rather than just make the contact and see what the school budget is and the number of students.
understood.
Yeah, well, the rest of the whole report had
Point
good
point
math.
well
This is
made,
not a
and I
normal
understand. Thank you.
Very few late people like him.
Actually, it was high.
I was
That's-
wondering if Mr. Cohen knew the exact number.
I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to quote it. But I just want to
I
say,
just thought- He's a layperson.
I am an expert on one thing as a layperson. I don't think I can ever remember hearing a professional come to the board and give testimony and apologize.
Yes, that's
I think that's the
probably-
first time I've,
Probably, yeah.
And we appreciate that.
that's the first time. That's an
Yeah.
attaboy.
When you make-
That's a Wimbledon.
Thank you. Thank you. When you make a mistake, you have to own up to it.
Well, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of experts come up here, especially traffic experts.
They're not
And
experts.
they're not experts, but they tell themselves they are, and they never ever
They
apologize.
saw the Highway Express.
But I'd like to see you do more EISs for the town. I just wanted to make sure you understood the mechanism. And obviously, the critical areas are very important
Absolutely.
when you get down to 2.002 acres.
Very close.
Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any,
Thank you.
any other questions from the board? Did you have, no?
And we want to make Greg happy.
Public.
Open to public.
Yes. Any questions from the public for the person who produced the EIS? No? Okay, she said no. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have no other witnesses?
No, yes, I thought the board called them.
Yeah, we're good.
I have
No,
no
we're
other
good. We're good.
witnesses, yes.
Okay. So, motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close. So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve this application.
Second.
Okay, and this would be with all that was stipulated to...
With all stipulations, conditions, and agreements.
I was surprised I never heard from the, oh, that's right, there's a motion on the table, sorry. Never mind. I was going to say we never heard from David. You had no comments at all? Okay.
All right, roll call,
Give me that
please.
look, Jesus Christ. Fucking warriors. I hate them and I love
Mr.
them.
Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Conard?
Yes.
Mr. Morningstar?
Yes.
Mr. O'Mani?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Collins?
Yes.
Even Mayor Bridgette?
I commend the applicant for getting together with the neighbors and the town, make the town happy also. Yes.
Chairman Dr. Sreed?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would mention to the board members that there's a couple items of correspondence from DEP and SCPB, Somerset County Planning Board, and our next meeting is next week. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.